From Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson with you. And joining us today from the Kansas Wheat Alliance, Daryl Strouts announces that a new hard white wheat variety from the K-State Wheat Breeding Program is being released for certified seed production this fall. He'll talk about its attributes, and he puts out the call to you wheat growers to be wary of the threat of stem rust disease as you go about your seed selection. Then from the Department of Agricultural Economics at K-State, Christine Wilson will talk about the academic opportunities that department offers students in support of their career goals, either within or outside the fields of agricultural economics and agribusiness. And standing by with his weekly commentary on rural Kansas, K-State's Gus Vanderhoeven, here on Agriculture Today. Agricultural producers, landowners, and creditors, you have a partner in your legal and financial needs. Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services offers reliable, trusted information and guidance. Whether you need advice for ag credit concerns or are transitioning your operation to the next owner, Kansas Agricultural Mediation Services can assist you in making sound decisions for your business. To learn more, call 800-321-3276 or visit us online. This is the K-State Radio Network, and you're listening to Agriculture Today. Welcome once again. The Kansas Wheat Alliance just announced that there will be, within the year, a new hard white wheat available for production out of the K-State Wheat Breeding Program, and we're going to detail what it's all about and its attributes in just a moment as we talk with the president of the Kansas Wheat Alliance, Daryl Strouts. Daryl, welcome back, and it pays to refresh folks on the nature and the orientation of this alliance, of which Kansas State University is a partner.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here today, Eric. The Kansas Wheat Alliance is a not-for-profit organization. We work closely with Kansas State University to help commercialize the new varieties that are developed here. We get them out to the seed producers and then eventually get those out to the farmers. We kind of help collect a small royalty on the sales of certified seed of these, and that goes back in to support the wheat breeding programs here at K-State.
This arrangement has been in place for several years now, correct?
It has, yeah. We're actually 10 years old now, so been doing pretty good. We've already put in about $7 million back into wheat breeding through various programs. Anytime a release is issued, and that is a new wheat comes onto the scene, we like to bring you by and have you walk us through its strengths and maybe some of its restrictions, if you will. This is a new white wheat, which will be suited for a fairly good-sized chunk of Kansas wheat country. What's its story, Daryl? Yeah, so this is a new one coming out of the Hayes program. Dr. Gurong Zhang there developed it and just kind of got the release notice here a couple of weeks ago. We're calling it KS Venada, Venada after the Spanish word for female deer. And we kind of think it fits that western Kansas, south central Kansas area pretty well. It's a white wheat, so producers need to remember that and make sure that they've got a market for white wheat that's not picked up everywhere in the state. And the thing that it really brings out is quality. We've got a lot of good feedback from the millers and bakers on it, so they really like the quality of this one. It seems to be very competitive with Joe, which is the leading white wheat in southwest Kansas right now. And it's got a nice disease package. It also brings in some improved sprouting tolerance. So for the guys that are really in that Pratt to Enid to maybe even south central Kansas kind of area, if they've always thought, hey, I'd like to try a white wheat, but I'm a little worried about pre-harvest sprouting, I think this is one that could maybe fit them. So this is basically the next step forward from Joe. You're looking at that previous white wheat as a benchmark here? Yeah, I think we could compare it to Joe in some ways. I mean, Joe's certainly been a leader and a great variety for southwest and western Kansas in general. Has a good disease package and the wheat streak mosaic virus resistance in Joe. Venada doesn't have that resistance, so that's for one reason we don't want to push it clear out west. but I think it'll be a good one for that central part of the state where we've been looking for a good white wheat variety.
And you're really touting its ability to fend off rust diseases, which are a perennial issue here in Kansas, of course, most years.
It's got a good leaf disease package, going along with it. And I think the maturity is being kind of a medium maturity, medium tall for guys that, maybe are in some of those drier, sandier soils and they want a little more height through their wheat. It'll provide them some good straw cover if they're in a no-till situation.
So it has a lot going for it, but it's back to that excellent baking quality. This is a wheat that really exceeds other wheats out there. It's really standing on top or close to it.
Yeah, so it's going to be one of those better quality ones out there, certainly among the white wheats that are available right now. That's one of the things we've kind of seen with Joe as a white wheat is it tends to outperform its management, as I like to tell producers. It gets undermanaged, and so sometimes the protein's not very strong in Joe, and that can lead to some concerns in marketing. Certainly with Venata, it's much easier to manage that way.
Right. And to note, it is going to go through the certified seed process first, so it will not be broadly available this fall, correct?
That's right. It won't be broadly available this fall. There might be some small quantities available for some larger test plots and strips if producers would be interested in something like that. But it'll be going out to the seed producers this fall and generally available to farmers next year.
And we hadn't mentioned specifically yield, but presumably it's competitive.
Yeah, it's been very competitive with Joe and certainly any of the other white wheat varieties that are out now. It's probably going to beat those two.
Right. Well, it's suited largely for south central and then toward western Kansas, although you're thinking maybe parts further east it could be adaptable too.
Yeah, certainly we're not going to take it into southeast Kansas. The environment there is just too wet, and to be honest, I don't know of any grain handlers that would want to deal with it. So, like I say, I think we get into that area from maybe south of Wichita over to Enid up to Pratt. Kind of that triangle would be ideally suited for this, but it'll certainly perform well in western Oklahoma, western Kansas, even into southeast Colorado.
Very well. Well, it's called KS Venata. It will be released for certified seed growers to produce this coming fall and then released broadly to the public as a certified seed product coming in the fall of 2019 out of the K-State wheat breeding program at Hays, a new hard white winter wheat for Kansas. A couple of other things, though, Daryl, while you're here, and you did want to bring up a threat out there to Kansas wheat production that maybe isn't getting as much attention as you think it ought to, and that is stem rust disease. What's prompted this?
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I haven't really thought about for a long time, and we've seen a number of wheat varieties, particularly in the western part of the state, that are labeled as susceptible to stem rust. And so I guess I've kind of known they were out there for a few years, but it wasn't until just a few weeks ago we were having a committee meeting here on campus, and it came up that 30% of the acres in western third of the state are planted with varieties that are susceptible. And, of course, that's always a concern when you start to see that because stem rust historically has had some pretty big episodes. I remember when I first started back here in the middle 80s, K-State had a new variety getting ready to release it, and the foundation seed production field that year got hit very late with stem rust, and it went from being a 50, 60 bushel an acre field. I think they actually ended up harvesting a little less than 1 bushel per acre off of it. So stem rust, it comes in late, and it basically just strangles the plant. The stems get infected, and they can't move moisture and nutrients up to finish out the fill on those seeds. So it's very difficult to manage in that way. And so, have we reached that tipping point with 30% of the acres with these varieties? And there's new varieties coming out, not out of the K-State program, but out of some of the other programs that don't have this stem rust resistance. And so, short term, I think farmers are putting themselves at risk by planting one of these varieties, and they need to be thinking about that and how they're going to manage it. Fungicides don't really fit the management plan very well, but yet if that's the only thing you have to use, it could be a tool to help, avert a complete loss. The bigger question, I think, when it comes to stem rust is once we start getting rust populations built up again, they, just like stripe rust was, they become a more frequent problem. And we all know what stripe rust has been doing to us over the last 10 years. And just like stripe rust mutated and changed and worked against some of the protections that we saw early on in varieties like Jagger, and then we saw it break down the resistance that we had in a variety like Everest, we can see the same thing with stem rust. It's those mutations. And if we break down those genes that are resistant now, we don't have a lot of other genes to go to. So I think it really behooves farmers to think just long-term on this too, and to not plant those varieties that are going to be susceptible to stem rust. And let's keep that disease, put away in the closet someplace and not let it creep out again.
Well, on the furthest back burner we possibly can. And on that note, anything in the K-State public variety pipeline that addresses stem rust?
Well, certainly. I mean, everything we've got coming out of K-State is going to have stem rust resistance. Like I said, we just really believe that that's an important thing to see out there in a variety. And it's kind of like seatbelts in cars. It's been around for a long time. We wouldn't think about making a car that didn't have a seatbelt anymore, would we? So we really need to remember to keep that gene in our wheat varieties and keep that seatbelt on, so to speak, so that when it does come, at least we're protected.
And a parting thought here, and this is a message that has been conveyed last couple of years as strongly as possible, and it's worth repeating that wheat streak mosaic, although not nearly the problem it was in 2017, it's still around, it's still a threat. So you want producers to take every measure they can to prevent another outbreak of that disease, and that in large part amounts to ridding of your volunteer wheat.
That's right. With the hail that we had out west, and now we've got enough rain, we can get that volunteer flushed, and we need to get that worked right away, kind of get that turned back under. We never know when we're going to have the chance to plant our wheat crop, so a lot of farmers tend to do it on the early side, and of course we need that good 2-week break when all the volunteer is killed dead, 2 weeks before we even plant, that kind of a break. So I really hope that farmers will remember that and again, not take chances with wheat streak mosaic this year. We actually have some new varieties in the pipeline from K-State that have improved wheat streak mosaic resistance, and so hopefully in the next year or two we're going to see more of those coming out.
Cultural management is still in vogue, that's for sure, with this disease.
It certainly is.
Daryl, as always, we appreciate you stopping over and visiting, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Thanks for the word, particularly on this new hard white wheat out of the K-State breeding program. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Eric.
He's the president of the Kansas Wheat Alliance. Daryl Strouts with us on Agriculture Today. And just a quick footnote ahead of the break. As we let you know yesterday on the broadcast, K-State's 2018 Wheat Variety Performance Test Report is now available, and you can see that online as we speak at the K-State Research and Extension Bookstore, ksre.ksu.edu/bookstore. This is the K-State Radio Network.
Agriculture and food systems are the main drivers of the Kansas economy, but must be improved in order to feed the world's growing population. How are we going to do so? Reduce food loss, find ways to preserve grasslands, and help families stretch their dollars. Global food systems is one of the 5 grand challenges K-State Research and Extension is addressing. To learn more, visit www.ksre.ksu.edu.
You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and welcome back. Well, another scholastic year is about to unfold here on the Kansas State University campus. So to help usher that in, we'll put in the spotlight now the career development opportunities via the College of Agriculture at K-State in general, and more specifically today, the Department of Agricultural Economics at K-State. Across the way now is Christine Wilson, the Director of Undergraduate Programs for the Agricultural Economics Department, which actually offers 2 majors, agricultural economics and agribusiness. And Christine, one thing we can say is that agricultural economics can be universal when it comes to helping young people along their career path, right?
Absolutely. Ag Econ, Ag Business, I think, are 2 of the most versatile majors that students in agriculture can pursue. It's especially good for students who know that they want to be involved in agriculture, and even for those who maybe aren't sure if they want to be involved in agriculture, but they recognize that agriculture, food, feed, fuel are great career paths and fuel the globe, not just Kansas and not just the United States, but critically important to our entire world. So for students who are looking for excellent career opportunities and excellent career paths, agribusiness and agricultural economics really does offer those. Great versatility, broad application. The skills that we try to teach our students in the Ag Econ department go beyond being able to be applied to agriculture. They truly can be applied to a number of different areas. And as you indicated, we've got two different majors. We've got agribusiness and we've got agricultural economics. And the core courses and core focus of both of those are the same. What makes the difference is that focus area that students choose that they want to pursue. If they truly want to pursue something that critically focuses on business and business skills, we've got the agribusiness degree with options with a more narrow focus in that area. And then we've got the agricultural economics with special focuses in farm management or quantitative skills or pre-law or pre-vet. So we even have opportunities for students who know that they want to go to vet school to get training to meet the requirements to be able to be accepted into veterinary school, but also build their business skills and their economics foundation so that not only do they understand the science of being a vet, but they understand the business skills to actually run that veterinary practice that the majority of them truly want to do. We've got a natural resource option, and then we have an option, we just call it our specialty option, and a student can pick any sort of specialty that they want to pick. It could be finance, it could be accounting, it could be management, it could be leadership, it could be Spanish, it could be statistics. And we've designed information for our prospective students for over 20 different specialties to show them the opportunities in different areas that they can pursue. So again, one of my take-home stories would be excellent degrees with outstanding career opportunities. We have a 98% placement rate for our students. So students who come into our program should feel secure in that. If I get a degree from the Department of Agricultural Economics at Kansas State University, I'm going to have career opportunities and I'm going to have good placement opportunities.
98% is a great rate at which those young people are finding those careers and getting going early on. And you talked about the various skills that the majors can foster here, but it comes back to a handful of core skills that the department promotes, you say.
Absolutely. So the skills that we promote, we try to train our students to think like economists. And so we want them to be critical thinkers, and we want them to have good decision-making skills and then also be good leaders. And when you put all of that together, I think you truly get a package that the majority of employers are looking for. And so if you've got somebody who can take a situation with information and data and be able to examine that, use that to understand the situation, and then be able to make a decision with that, that's going to benefit a business that focuses in any area. And our students go out to careers in the grain industry, the animal industry, the food industry, the banking industry, so the financial industry, and those are just a few areas that our students go.
Christine, when you have young people come into the program, need they be tremendously well-versed in the math, if you will, the statistics and so forth?
No, that's part of what our core classes consist of. So they don't have to have an extensive background in math or science. Now, of course, our major is math-based, more so than the natural science-based. We do require some science courses, but all of our courses, in many regards, will build upon college algebra skills and a little bit of business calculus types of skills. And again, it's to help focus on being able to make decisions and being able to make good decisions and using those critical thinking skills. So no, they don't have to come with those skills. We're going to help. That's part of what we're going to do. We're going to educate and train them. They don't have to come with an agricultural background either. And that's another great thing about our agribusiness and agricultural economics program is there are lots of different career and job opportunities. And while certainly we do have a core base of our students, about half come from an agricultural rural area and the other half are coming from more of an urban area. And again, We have a 98% placement rate, so we are placing all of those students, and those career opportunities are there for all of them.
One of the other features that your department is very proud of, its ability to align students with a myriad of internship opportunities, and that is part of the learning process and a big part, right?
We strongly encourage our students to get internships. We don't require it to graduate, but we push it and we strongly encourage them. And the majority of our students will have at least one internship. Typically, almost all of our students will leave our program having had one internship, and about half will have had 2 or 3 internships during their undergraduate career. I think those are extremely valuable. Students get out in the actual workforce. They learn areas that they've studied in classes, but now they're working for an employer and they're applying the skills and the thought processes that we've hopefully trained and educated them on, and they learn things that they also don't learn in the classroom about the workforce and the environment. They learn what they like, and many of them learn what they don't like as well, which is also very valuable. And if you're able to have multiple internships, that helps our students really determine the path that they want to take when they graduate. Internships often lead to job opportunities as well. So a lot of our students, when they start their senior year, the internship that they had the summer before, they already have a job offer as well.
And the connections they make are invaluable too, obviously.
Absolutely.
So, might note as well, on top of the 2 majors, agricultural economics and agribusiness, there are a couple of minors for those who do not want to major in the program but want to add the knowledge, or at least a piece of knowledge, from the department.
That's right. So we have both a minor in agribusiness and a minor in agricultural economics. Both of those are 15 credits. It's got a couple of our core courses and then a couple courses that students get to pick from a list of agricultural economics courses to focus, again, in a particular area that they want to build their skills. And I think for students who are majoring in agronomy, animal science, grain science, but want to build their core knowledge in business and economics, a minor from our program makes a lot of sense as well. And we do have a decent number of students that will pursue and acquire a minor from our program.
Well, it's an accommodating curriculum across the board, really, for any young person who wants to forge a career in agriculture. They can benefit one way or the other from being a participant in the agricultural economics department, agribusiness, or ag econ as a major. There's information galore out there for prospective students to have a look at, isn't there, Christine?
Yes, on our website, our department website, we've got information about both of our majors. We've got information about our faculty and their focus areas. We've got about 34 faculty members in the department. And again, lots of different diversity and broad focus areas. Our undergraduate students will be assigned to a faculty member as their academic advisor, which I know from feedback from our students, they very much appreciate being able to interact and get to know an actual faculty member who is an expert in their field. And so we continue to put our students with our faculty so that they do get that opportunity to get to know a faculty member and be advised by an actual expert in the field.
Very good. That website address is?
Our website is ageconomics.ksu.edu.
It's that simple, ageconomics.ksu.edu, and it's never too late to look into the possibilities of the agricultural economics or agribusiness major, made available through the Agricultural Economics Department at Kansas State. And Christine, we appreciate this overview. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Christine Wilson with us. She is a professor in that department and the director of undergraduate programs in agricultural economics and agribusiness at K-State. ageconomics.ksu.edu for full information on these educational opportunities. You are listening to Agriculture Today. We'll step aside now for a few moments, then returning with today's agricultural news headlines and more still ahead on the K-State Radio Network.
What is radon? Home exposure to radon gas is the leading cause of lung cancer death in the United States for non-smokers. In Kansas, 1 in 4 homes will test at or above the EPA action level. The Surgeon General recommends all homes be tested and fixed if necessary. Visit kansasradonprogram.org for more information. Test, fix, save a life. This message brought to you by the Kansas Radon Program, the Kansas Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Broadcasting from the campus of Kansas State University, this is Agriculture Today. Eric Atkinson here. Welcome back. Now to today's agricultural news headlines, courtesy in part of DTN. North American Free Trade Agreement negotiations with Mexico are going as well as we can possibly expect right now. Those are the words of the U.S. Chief Agriculture Negotiator, Greg Dowd. He did note, though, that negotiators haven't had market access conversations with Canada of any substance. In a speech to a gathering of sugar beet and cane growers who are members of the American Sugar Alliance, Dowd said that he thinks they're going to get there with Mexico, as he put it, in a relatively short order. But in starting to discuss the NAFTA negotiations with Canada, Dowd said those negotiations have been really, really difficult, as he put it. He said we have to get to a situation where we can bring Canada on board and wrap this thing up, his words. Dowd was referring there to the NAFTA renegotiation, which Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer has said that the Trump administration would like to finish by the end of August so that the current Mexican administration could sign it before leaving office on December the 1st. In what may have been a reference to farmer frustration with the Trump administration's trade policy, Dowd said that the administration is trying to get this thing squared away as fast as possible. Quoting him once again, "It would certainly be my preference. We didn't have this amount of uncertainty in markets at this time." On China, Dowd defended the Trump administration's tough stance, saying the Chinese have both demanded access to U.S. agricultural knowledge and attempted to steal it. Dowd also singled out China for spending more on farm subsidies than it is allowed under World Trade Organization rules. He says that they think China has done in excess of $100 billion more in subsidies to its farmers than it was allowed to do, noting that China has not reported its subsidies to the WTO since 2010. And he went on to say the Obama administration did bring a case against China in the WTO over those subsidies for crops such as corn and wheat, but that case is still working through the WTO process. Dowd said it's not possible to make China do anything. With the Chinese, he said it's necessary to help them understand that its subsidies hurt its own economy as well as farmers in the rest of the world. Record levels of beef, pork, and chicken coming to market are cutting into profits for the biggest U.S. meat processing companies. Tyson Foods, the largest U.S. meat supplier, reported a 21% increase in quarterly earnings on Monday, but it did cut its profit forecast for the year a week earlier, and tariffs already have cut into its revenue. Pilgrim's Pride, the second largest U.S. chicken processor, last week reported a 54% drop in second quarter profits. And analysts polled by Thomson Reuters expect Sanderson Farms' quarterly profits to drop by nearly 3/4 from the prior year when that company reports its results later this month. As meat piles up, investors are losing their appetite for meat-centric stocks. Shares of Tyson have declined 27% so far this year, falling 6% in the week after cutting its profit outlook. Pilgrim's Pride shares have fallen 41%, and Sanderson Farms 25%. Hormel Foods, which has a smaller business in meat processing, has actually gained 2%. Meat processors will produce a record 102 billion pounds this year, according to estimates from the USDA. And the tariffs on U.S.-produced meat, meantime, threaten to erode demand further. Duties implemented by Mexico and by China have forced meat companies to slash prices to prevent products from piling up this year, largely because of pressure created by Mexico's tariffs. Meat prices have been coming down for retailers, restaurants, and food distributors. Meantime, wholesale pork prices fell 10% over the past year, according to the USDA figures. Wholesale beef prices declining 9%, and while chicken prices for most of 2018 were running above last year's levels, those gains nearly vanished in the month of July, according to the USDA. On a better note, the U.S. exported a record 272 million pounds of beef in June, just slightly behind the all-time high for any month in May. Beef exports surging 38 million pounds, that's 15%, from year-earlier levels. During the first half of the 2018 calendar year, the U.S. exported 1.52 billion pounds of beef, up 196 million pounds, over 14% from last year. Pork exports totaling 454 million pounds in June. That's the second highest on record for the month, behind the 2008 number of 461 million pounds, and up 1.3% from last year. But pork shipments did decline 61 million pounds from May as exports dropped 25 million pounds, or 15%, to Mexico, the top market, and 17 million pounds, or 25%, to South Korea, the third largest market, from the previous month. The decline in pork exports from May to June is seasonal, but it's still attention-getting when two of the top three export markets dropped that significantly. Plus, shipments to Japan, the number 2 market, were also down month to month, just not as significantly. Well, recent stolen cattle reports in several Kansas counties should serve as reminders for you livestock producers to take steps to prevent theft. Todd Domer tells us here there are steps that you ranchers and feeders can take to lessen the chances of becoming a victim.
Identifying livestock with registered brands is important. In addition to brands, record ear tag, calf hood vaccination, and tattoo numbers. This identification can help locate and recover stolen livestock. Maintaining a pasture watch is an important preventive measure. Check pastures often, count livestock frequently, and be aware of strangers or unfamiliar vehicles in the area. Write down license plate numbers of any suspicious vehicles. Sharing this responsibility with neighbors will increase the vigilance factor. Securing gates and loading chutes with either a chain or lock is a good idea. This is especially important in locations where feeding pens or loading facilities are close to the road. It is best to feed livestock in places not easily accessed from the road. If livestock are stolen, immediately report the theft to the local county sheriff, the Kansas Department of Agriculture Division of Animal Health, and the state's special livestock theft investigator in the Kansas Attorney General's office. I'm Todd Domer.
And a quick calendar note ahead of the break. Remington Ranch in Gove County in the northwest part of the state will be hosting the next Kansas Livestock Association, Kansas State University Ranch Management Field Day at that ranch near Quinter. That is set for this coming Monday, August the 13th. There will be much covered on cover crops and annual forages to boost grazing opportunities, as well as the process of renovating environmentally stressed windbreaks and more on that program. Find out more about it by going to KLA.org. This is Agriculture Today.
Have you ever thought about where your food comes from? If you're thinking the grocery store, think again. Facts show that the American farmer feeds more than 129 people.
They are continually increasing and improving their operations. A wide variety of crops and livestock are grown in Kansas as well as the United States, providing food to your dinner plate.
Next time you see a farmer or rancher, thank them. For more information, contact K-State Research and Extension.
This is Agriculture Today. Stop, look, and listen. This is our state, Kansas.
They don't open at 8 o'clock.
That's Gus Vanderhoeven of Kansas State University with comment on life in rural Kansas.
They don't open at 8 o'clock, and they close before 5 in the afternoon. But I'm sure they're busy before they open, and there are things to do after they close. But from their counter, they reach the whole wide world. I'm talking about the small post office here on campus. Most of the time it is run by Barb and Tammy. They both have great personalities and, thank goodness, a great sense of humor, at least to me. Maybe I started when I opened the doors. You have to open 2 doors, one to enter the small entree hall, and then turn immediately right to enter the small post office. It's all business displays with postal boxes hanging on the ceiling like hams on the rafters, to show the customer what is available to send their packages. As we know, these boxes and envelopes each have their own price tag and guarantee that whatever you send gets to its destination. Of course, whatever you send has its limitations. It has to be safe per postal inspection. The fact that all these different size boxes are readily on display must help with communication with the foreign students who mail stuff. At busy times, I admire the 2 women for their proficiency and patience as well as kindness. When I enter, there is banter. Of course, I greet them and ask how they are. But from there on, it's banter and lots of it. So I need stamps. I need a whole sheet. I do have the money to cover the purchase. Yes, Barb or Tammy, it is real money. We trust in God. Somehow, good old Abe Lincoln. But I always hold more with Washington. It makes my billfold thicker. So they pull the book with stamps. Then we go through the routine that I want real stamps. I prefer stamps with landscapes or historic scenes. Tammy opens the folder and says, "Do I have some real stamps for you?" As the pages flip by, no. Yes, those I want. I need to stick them on the letters I write. The stamps are only for in the country, and I think these stamps should be for overseas, to show and share how beautiful our country is. I think the ones for overseas, airmail stamps, are rather dull. I bought a few, but they are green rosette. Looks like a cabbage head to me. The sheet of Forever In-State stamps I bought is the Oh Beautiful series of 20 stamps. Each stamp has a different picture, different landscape representing the 5 themes. Sea to shining sea, the fruited plains, mountain majesties, waves of grain, and spacious skies. They show the diversity of our country and the richness of the different landscapes. I've looked at each of the stamps, the landscape it shows. It's only 1 inch by 1 inch square stamp, but each shows miles and miles of country, beautiful country. There are a couple of scenes which could be in Kansas. Of course, the 4 waves of grain stamps, but there's also Montana, and there's Washington State. There is the one with the evening sky and the windmill. Next to it, a very ripe golden wheat field with clouds in a blue sky. Kansas. Of course, Kansas. What struck me was that I could relate to all of the 20 landscape scenes shown on the stamps. I've seen all, from coast to mountains to valleys to desert. The rocky coast I've seen and walked, as well as the wide, sandy beaches. That does not mean that I know all the different landscapes. Oh, no. And that has sometimes been a frustration. But I know that is impossible. For knowing a landscape, one has to live in it, like I have lived in Kansas now for 44 years. I feel I know our state, but even that holds its limits. However, a series of stamps like this is like a picture book. It opens up. It creates the vistas, the experiences. So when Tammy said, "I have some neat stamps for you," she was right. I gave her some of my greenbacks. Until she was satisfied with the exchange, and I could walk out as an honest man, having given Caesar what I owed him. Yes, that comes out of the big book. Give Caesar what is Caesar's due. Of course, with the purchase of the stamps, I've bought a service. The service is that after I stick a stamp on a letter of the appropriate weight, I can expect that letter to be delivered to the address written on the envelope. It must be clearly written with the correct zip code. However, as I've learned, there is no absolute guarantee. Not so long ago we received an airmail letter sent from the Netherlands on April 14, and it arrived early July. That plane took a long time across the big pond. But we did get the letter. As Barb and Tammy will tell me, we do the best we can. Once bought and glued on, there is no money back. But think of it, a small campus post office reaching all over the world with letters and packages. Actually, it's a fun job, especially if you look at the stamps.
Gus Vander Hoeven of Kansas State University with his weekly commentary on rural Kansas. Well, once again, our time is away. Thanks for joining us. Eric Atkinson here. This has been Agriculture Today over the K-State Radio Network.